Welcome to the Manifested Podcast with Kathleen Cameron, a podcast dedicated to manifestation, law of attraction, and self-love for impact-driven entrepreneurs. My name is Tommy Collier, and I'll be your co-host along with Kathleen Cameron, who is a rock star mom, an international best-selling author. She's an 8-figure coach, a highly sought-after speaker, teacher, trainer, and television star. Kathleen is Chief Wealth Creator, CEO, and founder of Diamond Academy, and she is the perfect guide to lead you down the path of attracting more love, more money, and more success into your life starting right now. All right, here we are, episode 6. Kathleen, how's it going?
I am loving this idea of what we were going to talk about today. This is such a fun topic, so I'm excited.
Me too. We're going to be talking about beliefs. So where should we start?
Oh my gosh. Okay. I want to start off by saying first that in the manifestation world right now, it's very, very popular on TikTok. The hashtag manifestation has been used an insane amount of times, and there are manifestation coaches popping up everywhere, which I think is beautiful and amazing. And I'm so grateful for it because the more people that understand the power of manifestation, the more commonplace it becomes, the more this information is going to impact the world positively. So I think it's great. So I'm not dogging anything. I just want to say that. But what I will say, though, is that in an effort to get your message out, there is this thing where we give these methods, these tools, write this out a bunch of times, say this affirmation a bunch of times, and you'll manifest your dream house or your perfect man or whatever else. And what I want to really emphasize is that it's not about focusing just on what you want, but it's about a transformation. It's about a shift in beliefs. That's what manifestation more is about. And so if you want to bring in something into your life that you've never experienced before, you must experience life in a different way with the use of new beliefs. And these beliefs are ones that you choose, you decide, become your truth, and then become your reality. And so manifestation is all about your beliefs. And so before you start writing something out a bunch of times and listening to affirmations and all those things, listen to this podcast episode and then start to examine those beliefs. And then when you do those other tools, they will be far more powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can speak to that for myself too. Like when you first get into this kind of information, a lot of people will tell you, you have to start doing, auto suggestion, writing stuff down, writing out your goal, writing out affirmations. There's nothing wrong with that. Okay. But if the energy doesn't move while you're doing that, if it doesn't make you feel something, if it's not shifting your consciousness, the action is irrelevant.
Totally. And manifestation happens, it's a transformation. And so just ask yourself, these affirmations that I'm writing out or these things that I'm auto-suggesting, is it the same old me with the same old beliefs? Or am I a new version doing it? That's the most impactful part of manifestation.
Totally. So how important are beliefs in success, Kathleen?
Oh my gosh. When I think about like pre-successful Kathleen and post-successful Kathleen, however you want to say it, I can see now that success has been something throughout my entire life I've strived for and have accomplished, just at different levels, different frequencies of vibration, if you will. So it's not like I haven't achieved it, but the version of me that had the quantum leaps or collapsed time was one who had drastic shifts in her beliefs. And it was a drastic shift in my beliefs around myself, the concept that I hold about me, beliefs about the world and how it works, beliefs around what success really is and what I want and what it takes to achieve it, different beliefs about entrepreneurship versus being an employee, massive shifts in my beliefs resulted in these quantum leaps in my life. So they are pivotal. They are necessary. They are so important. And it is also something that never ends. So, wanting to become aware of and then shift your beliefs is growth. And it truly is shifting your awareness. The more you become aware of and the more that you're able to shift it, the more changes you'll see in your life. And so I say for us, you and I, Tommy, and anybody who's listening, we should really strive to be examining our beliefs until we're no longer in this physical 3D world here, and if you can commit to something like that, it becomes this fun part of everyday life where you're paying attention, you're noticing, you're shifting. And it sounds like it might be a bit uncomfortable, but it's the art of expansion. And I talk so much about that. I'll go into it maybe on a different podcast, but it's really just choosing to always become a better version. And how do you do that? Through examining your beliefs.
Yeah. I was just thinking about someone the other day that I had once, spoken to about, they were in this material, they were doing all of the things. Yeah. And they're like, well, why isn't anything shifting? And in a short, brief conversation with this person, I could tell, oh, he's just really holding fast to those beliefs, not really willing to examine them or poke holes in them to see if they were, even worth shifting at all. He was just like, nope, this is how it is. Like, as if it was like, an absolute truth versus a relative truth, which we're about ready to talk about. But my question to you is, like, if you're unwilling, or I think everyone's capable, but if you're unwilling to shift your beliefs, can you be successful without doing that?
I think you're going to be keeping yourself in kind of where you're at, if you're not willing to, the saying, having an open mind, this is exactly what we're talking about, having your mind open to something new, an alternate perspective, an alternate viewpoint, a different belief, that allows you to experience life in a different way. And it can be really, really exciting when you allow yourself to do that. And we want to make sure that we're open to suggestions that feed the goals that we want, that don't keep us where we're at, but really allow us to thrive and to grow. And so when you choose to come into the energy of someone achieving what you want to achieve in life, you immediately get influenced positively by the beliefs that they hold. And so oftentimes it's like, okay, I don't want to know what you did to achieve your success. I want to know what you believe.
And that's something that I remember you saying a lot, that you have had a lot of people come and ask you, Kathleen, what are you doing? Mm-hmm. What are you doing? But very rarely were people asking you, what do you believe?
Totally. Yes. And I remember I did a Q&A once with, I don't know, there was like hundreds, like 400 coaches on there. And they were like, how did you do this? How? And I just said, I'm not answering any of the how questions. You should be asking me what I'm thinking. And you should be asking me what I'm believing, because that is the difference. There's 1,000 people out there doing the exact same thing that I do every single day in the way that I do it in, and that aren't achieving what they want to achieve. And yet I am. Why is that? It's because of the underlying beliefs that I have that are part of my subconscious that before I thought I couldn't change, but now I know different, that I can change it. I can influence it. And so now I choose wisely what I'm going to believe. That's really important.
Oh, and the bottom line, you choose.
Oh, yes. Well, and when you are thinking about your beliefs and what you currently hold right now, ask yourself, which one of these beliefs are my own, and which have just come from where? Like, why do I believe that? Ask the question. There's a fun little story that I heard about a Christmas ham, or maybe it was Thanksgiving ham. And it was this family that every single year they made this delicious ham in the oven, and it got passed down by generation and generation and generation. And so, the grandmother is like teaching the granddaughter how to do it. She's like, you take this ham and you cut the ends off and you put it in the oven and you baste it and all those kinds of things. And everybody loved it. And so the granddaughter said, Grandma, why do we cut the ends off? And the grandma's like, I don't know. I really don't know why we do that. We've always just done that. And so they ended up like asking the great grandma, who was like in her late 90s, about why we did that. She was like, oh, because the ham didn't fit in the pan that we had, honey. And like, I just think about this. Okay. Like, so where did these beliefs come from?
Yeah.
Are they absolute or relative truths, which we can define what we mean by that? And do you want to still believe it? Is it contributing positively to your life or not? So as we're talking about absolute and relative truths, why don't you tell me what you have on your little sticky note there?
Okay, yeah, and I want to ask you to define what you mean there. But this is something that Neil Donald Walsh said in some book that I wrote down, and it says, truth is created. It is not discovered. So he's basically saying that every truth anybody comes to for themselves is something that they've created. It's not necessarily been discovered like as this absolute thing that's true for everybody. We all have a different truth, right? So you call that relative truth versus absolute truth. Talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I love this. So I actually, these two, this dichotomy, I actually read in Vision Lakhani's book. And I loved it so much because he talked about an absolute truth is no matter where you are on this planet Earth, it is true. You know, we need water to survive.
Yeah.
You know, a parent has to teach their child how to walk, whatever. You know, these are absolute truths no matter where you are in the world. But a relative truth is that this might be different for a different country, a different family, a different friend group, a different experience. So, you know, the last episode we talked about self-love and body positivity. Well, I can tell you right now that there are different cultures where beauty standards are very, very different. So this is a relative truth. It is not hard truth, fact, absolute that thinness is better, because there are places in the world where it's not. So it's just a little example of how some of these beliefs really can be shaped and they can be changed if you're open to it. I think that's what Neil's talking about. You know, your experience of life right now, which is your truth, what you see, is a culmination of what you believe. What you believe to be true will always be your truth. It will manifest outward. It's not possible not to. Like, you can't believe something and then be convinced that you're wrong. No, if you believe something, the physical 3D world will say, yes, this is your experience. And you'll live according to that truth. So even me having the belief that a bigger body was inferior, it led me to behave in different ways with my body. It led me to have that experience. If I had never believed that, would I have had the experience that I had? Probably not. So just a little aside when we're talking about beliefs and the importance of them. And when you start examining them, which ones do you want to examine? The relative truths for sure.
Yeah. And be careful that you aren't mistaking relative ones for absolute ones. Because it can be something that you think, oh, this is absolute. This is just the way it is. But it's actually relative.
I love that so much. So I've been doing a lot of studies on the blue zones. So I've been reading a lot of information about the areas of the world where people live the longest, right? And, you know, according to our standards right now, people would tell you that like weightlifting, weight training, and having strength means you're going to live a longer life. But when you look at like some of the behaviors and the habits of people in these parts of the world, they don't do that. They don't even go to the gym. Yeah. They like eat from the land and they relax and they don't experience high levels of stress and all this kind of stuff. So it's just a different way of living. But even their body living longer has to do with their thinking and their beliefs. It's really, really powerful. Yeah, I love this topic. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so good. So if we're talking about, okay, let's create some new empowering beliefs. How do we start?
Well, you can't create new beliefs before you become aware of the ones that you currently have now. So this is where self-reflection is so incredibly important. Pay attention. What are your dominant thoughts throughout the day? That's going to tell you a lot about your beliefs, your reactions to life. I love this. The way that you react to the world around you will determine your beliefs. So if you find yourself, for example, getting your feelings hurt a lot, that tells me that you believe that the opinion of others matters. Does that belief serve you? Okay, no judgment, just does it serve you? Would your experience of life be a different one if you didn't care as much about the opinions of others? For example, there's beliefs about pretty much everything that you hold. And so that's what I mean is a lifelong journey of really, really unlearning some of these beliefs that are limiting you and creating ones for yourself that empower you. So what are my beliefs? Where did they come from? Are they relative or absolute? And do I want to continue to take them forward with me into the rest of my life? Because you don't have to.
Yeah. So that's great. So that's like step one. So what would step two be?
Well, so in my journey, I found that I started to then just create new beliefs. So I was like, okay, so if I believe that I need to be more disciplined, but I currently believe I'm not disciplined, I'm going to create a belief that I am. And okay, we're going to change it. And I just started creating all these new beliefs, right?
How? How do you create a new belief? How would you say it? Like what's like what is the how there?
Okay. It's a conscious decision. It's a choice. It's literally like how I write it down. That's probably like the best how, but it is a conscious decision to believe something differently. I'm going to go a little bit deeper to that, but I just want to say one quick thing before we get into this how part, because you're all going to want to know, how do I change my beliefs? After I did a lot of this work, I was finding that it was taking a long time for me to change beliefs. Okay. So we change a belief in many different ways. The ones that I originally learned about were constant spaced repetition or emotional impact. But there is a lot of ways to reprogram the subconscious mind, a lot of ways to change beliefs. You can do NLP, you can do cognitive behavioral therapy. I mean, you can do hypnosis. There's so many ways. But what I was finding though was that a lot of the ways that I was choosing to use were time consuming, took a long time. I wasn't accepting the new belief quick enough. And I was finding out that there was a lot of work involved. Like I needed to hear it a million times and write it out a million times. And it just felt really hard. And it felt like a lot.
Yeah, it wasn't like enjoyable.
No. So then I was like, okay, wait a minute. What would be an ideal belief to have? Because what I noticed, even when I'm saying that to you, I notice what the underlying belief is. That changing your beliefs are hard, that it takes time, that it's this and that.
And
so
that's
I'm like,
just
whoa,
the belief, right?
I'm like, whoa, back it up. Why do I believe this? So then what I did is I thought, what would be a better belief to hold? A better belief would be, I can change a belief in an instant. I change my beliefs with ease and flow, whatever you want that to be. So I just started playing with the idea that it was easy to change my beliefs, that I do it in an instant. And so I started with that one first.
So would you say that the belief that it's difficult or time consuming to change beliefs is actually a relative belief that we've accepted as absolute as a society?
Yes, I would say so for sure. Yeah. Well, and even if I look at my level of awareness, I didn't think that I could even change my beliefs. I just thought they were what they were. Then I realized I could change them. Then I believed it was a hard process. And now I'm like, no, I don't want to believe that. Like, I want to believe the most efficient belief that there is. And to me, that's that I can believe something new in an instant. So now that's become the basis of how I do all my belief shifting. So as we go into the how, I want you to think about then, what if it was that easy? And what if you went into it with a mindset of ease in that way? Your experience of belief shifting would then be completely different, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Because you'd act in that assumption, which would be fun.
Okay.
Yeah.
So step two is installing a belief that beliefs can be changed with ease.
Thank you, Tommy. You said that so nicely. Yes, that's perfect. And then step three then, okay? So you've become self-aware. You've instilled a new belief that you can change beliefs with ease. Now you're going to choose beliefs that you think will serve you better. A lot of times people will get to this step and it's overwhelming. And they're like, whoa, like I have about 1,000 beliefs that I can change right now. Wow, I'm going to be doing this for a long time. But what I would really encourage you to do is, if you do find that there's this beautiful list of new beliefs that you want to nurture, and you want to get to that place where, you know what, I think if I believed I was really confident, I would achieve more. If I believed that I loved waking up in the mornings, I would enjoy my mornings more. You know, all these little things. Like if I believed these, what would my life be like? And you create that list. The next step is to choose a few from that list. And I would choose the ones that you think are going to have the greater impact. Yeah. So, of course, confidence. Believing that you are confident is going to be life-changing. Confidence isn't something that somebody else gives you or comes with success or comes over time. It is literally a belief. It is something that you either believe you do have or you do not have. The other thing that I often do with my beliefs too is that if I think that I'm creating a belief from like absolute scratch and it's like really far off from what I think it's true, it feels like I'm climbing a mountain. So instead, to make things feel easier and lighter, so I use the law of relativity here, I will choose to see all the ways in life I have already experienced that belief to make it feel easier. So for example, I might not be confident in running a business because I've never owned one before. So then I have this belief that I lack confidence. So then I will say, hold on, tell me all the ways in life you have been confident before. So that I'm like, well, I'm a confident mother. I was confident in my nursing career. I was pretty confident speaking in front of large groups. I was confident doing this and this. And then suddenly I've built an image of how confident I am. And so then all I'm doing is taking that belief and saying, you know what? I am a very confident person that is starting a new business venture instead of lacking confidence in my business. That's two different beliefs. And so easy, we just shifted without really actually changing anything. So to me, that's shifting a belief with ease. The other example, Tommy, for me, which was a pivotal belief. So when I'm saying choose the beliefs that are going to create the biggest impact, I've said confidence. But another one is the belief that you have to work hard to achieve success. So I learned this one from my dad. For sure. He worked hard. He went all the way from stocking the shelves in a menswear company, worked there for 25 years, worked his way all the way up to president and CEO. And he left early in the morning. He stayed at night. He always had his computer and was on his phone on the weekends. And so a lot of my drive and my motivation came from him. But I also had this belief that I had to work really hard to get a job or have a career that would pay me a good salary. And so by good salary, I'm doing air quotes here. Good, it was like $100,000 a year. Have benefits and pay and security. So he taught me stay with one company for, work for somebody and stay there for 25 years. And so those beliefs had served me well in certain parts of my life for sure. But in going into entrepreneurship and wanting to become wildly more successful than I'd ever been before in my life, suddenly becoming more confident, that belief became a limiting one because I wanted to work for myself. I didn't want a pension and benefits. I didn't want a traditional 9-to-5 job. I didn't want to work for anybody anymore. So all the beliefs that I held about that type of life and living, they really needed to be evaluated and they really needed to be shifted. And so then I started to build this new belief about what if I could achieve something phenomenal, something extraordinary, and do it in an energy of fun and lightness and ease and flow. And what if I could achieve more and more without working harder? And so this is how I started to really fall in love with these new beliefs. And they started shifting quickly, obviously, because I believed they would.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I think is the thing that if you, there's probably a few different threads, but if you could find a golden thread that runs through every person that's achieved something of great success, somewhere they believed they could do it.
Oh, absolutely. You can't. If you do not believe that you will achieve what you want to achieve, you will not. It is a self-fulfilling prophecy. You are asking for it and you will receive it. So our beliefs are our asks. They literally are the recipe, the ingredients for what it is that you want in life. And so if you have this belief that you're different, that you don't have what it takes, or if you believe someone else has something that you don't have, this is another really beautiful thing I learned from Bob, is that, he used to say, don't put me on a pedestal. If you think that I have some extra part of my software or some special abilities or skills, or I have some higher level of knowledge that you'll never have, then you're keeping yourself off the pedestal. So he used to say, don't put me on a pedestal. Yep. So what I think is really beautiful is just put yourself back up on the pedestal with whoever it is.
Yeah.
that you have up on the pedestal, just take yourself and put yourself there too. Because that belief that you're alongside them is a very, very powerful belief to have. And it actually elevates you and rises you almost immediately in your consciousness. And it comes from a really beautiful place when you do it. Like, you know what? You're right. If you can do it, I can. That's what you're saying. You're not trying to be better than anybody. You're just saying, you know what? If you can, I can. And that is one of the beliefs that I went into this business with. Absolutely. I did not pay attention to those that weren't doing what I wanted to do. I only paid attention to the ones that were, and there's only a couple. And I allowed myself to see myself alongside them, not inferior or less than.
And I think this is a good analogy too, because with the pedestal, because the truth is you're born on the pedestal and you don't step off of it until someone tells you to step off of it for some reason. Like we were talking about in the last episode, you don't know you're fat until someone lets you know, and that's not okay. You know?
Well, totally. And why is that person telling you to get off the pedestal? Because they were told to get off the pedestal and they don't know why.
Yeah.
So it's like the ham with the ends cut off for no reason.
Yeah.
You know, we're just doing things and we're just teaching the same thing.
Yeah.
So, you know, the really, really beautiful thing though, as we talk about this stuff is you absolutely listened to this episode. You heard a belief, you noticed a belief in yourself that you can shift. I know you did. It's inevitable after listening to the way we're talking. And so what I would just say is like, go into this journey with love, not with hate. So don't judge yourself. Don't get down on yourself. Don't say, I shouldn't believe that. That's a wrong belief to have. No, let's go into the energy of, oh my gosh, I am so grateful. I just became aware of a belief that limits me, and I can now empower myself to believe something different. I think that is such a beautiful energy to be in. It's inquisitive, it's light, it's fun. But when we get down on ourselves, we're not going to be able to shift them as quickly as we'd like, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Should we just make a disclaimer from now moving forward and previously in this podcast too? Anytime we suggest you do anything, it is without judgment of yourself.
Absolutely. That is a must. No judgment always. No judgment of yourself, no judgment of others, and no judgment of the world that we live in. Yeah. Because when you are living in judgment, it puts you in a state of displeasure, and you are no longer in a state of gratitude.
Yeah.
And there's so much to be grateful for.
Totally. I have a couple of questions I feel like people might be asking after listening to what we've said so far. So first of all, how many beliefs would you suggest people work on changing at a time?
Well, I believe for me, I focus on about 3 at a time. But remember, I focus on what I think are going to be the most impactful beliefs at a time. So I really want to make sure that they're beliefs that really impact my behavior a lot. So a belief like you have to work really hard to be successful caused me to work really hard. Change that belief. I stopped being in so much resistance. I started to have more fulfilling lifestyle and hang out with family more. So choose the beliefs that are going to have the greatest impact first. And I would stick with about 3 at a time.
Yeah. And so in step 1, we said, become aware of your current beliefs. So maybe if you made a list, just wrote out all of your beliefs, then for step 3 of what should I now do? What beliefs should I create that are serving me better? Would it just be the opposite of whatever you wrote in step 1?
For the most part, yeah. For the most part, it would be the opposite. Because if you find that it is limiting you in some way, then you know that the opposite of it would be more beneficial to your growth, right? So I think right away about any beliefs around money. So your current beliefs around money are creating your current money story. So whatever situation that you have with money, whether you have a lot of it or you don't have a lot, it all comes from the beliefs that you hold around money. So if the common belief is money is really, really hard to make and it takes a really long time, then you want to believe the opposite, that money is easily acquired and effortless. Or, you make more money the less you work. Wow, what kind of belief would that serve you?
Right.
Absolutely. And so I want to also say that I want you to be realistic and not in the way that you think. So I don't want you creating realistic goals. I want you to be realistic, and I want you to expect miracles, because when you shift your belief, you will literally be in awe of what has shown up differently for your life. So when you convince yourself that money comes effortlessly and more comes every single month, when you believe that to be true, that will be your experience. And I'm telling you from my experience of how fun that is to actually see happen. It's really, really beautiful. So be realistic and expect a miracle.
So what do you mean by be realistic, though?
Oh, I'm just being kind of sarcastic because.
But I think this is really good because tell me what you're going to say.
Well, most people will say, well, that's not a realistic goal. Most people will say, oh, be realistic. So, I'll tell them double your goal. And they're like, well, that's not realistic. What is realistic? So that's why I say be realistic and expect a miracle. So for me, being realistic now means I'm going to double my income. Being realistic means I'm going to love the heck out of myself. Be realistic means I'm going to manifest myself on a TV show. Realistic is simply a belief in itself and what you believe is realistic or not. And it's very limiting.
Yeah. So it sounds like what you're saying is when you're like, not the way most people use this word, when you're saying be realistic, it's come up with whatever the goal is, whatever you want to believe, but make it real.
Totally. Make it real for you. Make it real for you. I think so many times we see things for other people and we go, yeah, it's real for them, but not for us. So you got to make it real for you.
That's so good. Well, this episode has been, I think, pretty packed here. This is great. You have a little bit of homework if you can't tell. You've got some steps to go through if you want to do this, make some lists and start working on these beliefs. Let us know how it goes.
I'd love to hear how it goes. Yeah.
Yeah. And also, too, if you're listening if you're now on this episode, if you can think of something you'd like us to talk about, let us know and we'll do an episode about it.
Yeah. A lot of our content, a lot of the YouTube content and content that we teach on some of our live events comes from the questions that you guys ask. We want to make sure that we're really giving you so much value that you can actually use. So give us your feedback for sure.
Totally. All right. Well, let's leave it there.
Okay. Well, thank you everybody so much for listening. With gratitude, Kathleen
and Tommy.
And remember, the limit does not exist.